Hello students, welcome to Psychology 2010, Psychology as a Science and Profession. At this point in your coursework, you should have taken at least one other psychology class. Hopefully this is actually near the end of your psych courses at Salt Lake Community College. But I wanted to give you a little introduction to the course in general and an introduction to the week in itself. So hopefully you've used Canvas before. If not, here I've logged into Canvas. I'm in my dashboard. You can see assignments that are upcoming and due in all classes there. You can click on courses to get to our course. So I'm going to click on our course, Psych 2010, and open that here. And this is what you should find anytime you log into 2010. So this home page is essentially the week 1 introduction. If you are watching this, you probably got here already because as soon as this is recorded, I'm going to put this little video in a box right here. So obviously it's recording right now, so it doesn't exist yet. It'll be here for you to watch. Essentially, every week you'll get one of these little introductions to what's going on in the week. I will have a little note here about some things that you might need to know about for the week. If there was something last week to remind people of, or reminders of things coming up in a few weeks. You did an exam, everybody gets a couple extra points because I messed up on the coding of the exam or something like that. I will put these kind of notes right here. Otherwise, these are introductions to what are you going to expect for the week. So let's assume you've made it here. I want to show you a couple different ways to navigate through the courses. So one way to navigate as you come here is you can go through any given page and usually there will be a next button. Sometimes in my view it doesn't always show up on the home page, I think is because I'm on the home page. But the other way to navigate is through modules. This is usually how I navigate through my classes in Canvas, and yours is going to look slightly different. Yours will look more similar to this. So to get to week 1 introduction, you can click here. And then to open up the other things, you would just open them up in new tabs or this tab. And you can see here also week 2 introduction is up right there. So after you finish week 1, you can click on modules, start on week 2. So let's go to this introduction page. There we go. Yep, it's because it was a home page, so it didn't actually have a next button. So here is another way to navigate as you go through this. Let's pretend I've finished reading it. I can click next and go to the next thing in the course. And this is an introduction to me. It's got some pictures, a little bit about psychology, a little bit about what I've done in the field, but you'll get to that in your own time. So this introduction to the week in general, one thing that I want you to do is always read this note. Then also every week you should have readings right here. So these are the readings that you're expected to do within this week, as well as the assignments that are going to be due during the week. And then this will be a discussion board link. It looks like it's not actually active right now, but you should be able to click right there and get to the discussion board. Otherwise, you can again click on modules and find in week 1 the discussion board, which is right here. You can open it that way as well. So there's really 2 ways to navigate. As you go through things, you will find the discussion board. So let's talk about the class in general. Let's go over the syllabus really quickly before jumping into exactly what to expect for this specific week. So one thing, well, I guess we can navigate through to find your syllabus. So here you get to know me, and then one of the next pages is the introduction, introducing yourself after I've introduced myself, and then you have your syllabus right here. So anytime there's an update to the syllabus, you can come and download it right here. So right now it says 8/10 for being created on the 10th of August. So any updates will have a more updated date, and I have that open here. So here we are. Here is the syllabus for this class. I've probably emailed this to you. It should have gone to your Canvas email. So again, hopefully you have found this video as well as the syllabus already. So this has things like my email. Feel free to use Canvas email. That's perfectly fine. One thing to let you know, and this is also in your week 1 introduction, in the additional notes section, is that there are 2 versions of the textbook you can use. So these are the versions that I have and I built the course off of. So these are the Dunn and Hallinan book. This is the second edition, so the most up-to-date edition of Dunn and Hallinan. And this one is Stanovich, the 11th edition. So this is also the most recent edition of the Stanovich book. But I've looked over the previous editions. So for Dunn and Hallinan, the first edition, and for Stanovich, the 10th edition, there are some differences. For example, for a few of the chapters in here, they split some and made them bigger. For the second edition versus in the first edition, there were fewer chapters. So there are some additions, but overall, if you use the previous editions, so the first edition of Dunn and Hallinan and the 10th edition of Stanovich, you should be totally fine in the course. The bookstore has the Dunn and Hallinan in stock, and the Stanovich, or the second edition of Dunn and Hallinan, the 11th edition of Stanovich, so you can pick those up there, or if you find a cheaper version of the first or 10th edition of these books. But just so you know, to get those sooner rather than later. Another big thing, and probably one of the most important things that I hope you'll be referencing frequently, is the schedule at the bottom of the syllabus. I've really spelled things out when things are due in here to help it be easier for you to schedule it into your own calendars. As you see, we have classes beginning this week. Your initial discussion board post is usually due Wednesday, and especially since it's just an introduction to yourself, that should be pretty easy for you to do without having read anything. You have a syllabus quiz due this week, response discussion board, so you'll post a discussion board, then you have a required response for that discussion board as well by Friday evening. So that's when the actual due date is labeled. So the initial post is due Wednesday, but Canvas only allows for one due date. So, or I just don't know how to give it to. And then, so the actual due date for the response post is the Friday. And it's usually Friday, it's usually Wednesday for the initial, usually Friday for the response. And then I have the opportunity for extra credit almost any week that there is a discussion board. I want there to be conversations in the discussion board. So usually in a classroom setting, you will have maybe a student say something, another student build off of that, another student build off of that. That's the kind of conversation I want happening in the discussion boards. But sometimes students will post their required post. They'll do their initial post, then they'll do 2 response posts, never look at the discussion board again. So for those of you who do go back and respond to people who have responded to you, you'll get a little bit of extra credit. I believe it's 2 points every week that or any time that that's available. So what that means is essentially anybody who has responded to you, you respond to them. So if there's people who, maybe you post an initial response or you posted a reply response to them, they respond to you, you respond back to them. The more conversation happening, the better. So this is outside, extra work outside of your initial post and response post, which are required, but you can get a little extra credit by going back to the discussion boards again and having more conversations with people. You'll also learn a lot more, which is why I'm encouraging you to do that. So with this, you can plan for the weeks. You can see for this week, we have the syllabus to read. We have Stanovich Chapter 1. The readings for next week are going to be Stanovich Chapter 12 and Dunn and Hallinan Chapter 5. With that being said, I do have those first 3 chapters available to you to download. So you don't need to worry too much about having your books today. Ordering them today might be good, but here in the intro page, you can actually download the first 3 chapters of the book here. And that should set you up pretty well until week 4, where you'll need the Dunn and Hallinan book again. So we're reading an article for week 3. So if you can get your book by about the 8th of September, you should be good to go. So again, use this calendar, plan ahead. You can look ahead and see, oh, this is when the midterm exam, maybe put that in your schedule, plan out study times, things like that. You can go down here and say, oh, here's when the final exam is open. With this being an online class, those exams will be fully online. They will be open book, they will be open note, they will not be open neighbor. So for this week, let's jump back to, there's one more thing I want to show you in the syllabus before I do that. You can track points down here. So this is all the assignments that will be due in the class. You can write down all the points that you earned. I mean, download this, maybe print these last 6 pages or so, so you have the calendar easily accessible. That's usually what I do for the classes. Another thing is there will be a lot of writing in this class, and so I have a little exercise on plagiarism. I guess I should just Control F. Plagiarism. Alright, so here is a couple different activities you can do to give yourself a little tutorial on plagiarism. A lot of times plagiarism is unintentional at the college level. You don't realize that you need to cite something or you need to cite it in a specific way. That's what these exercises go over. They really help you to not make that unintentional plagiarism mistake. So that's another thing I wanted to show you. Other than that, I do expect you to read through this whole syllabus. You do have a quiz on it. Yeah, so that's one of your readings, Stanovich Chapter 1. Again, you can download the first 3 chapters of the book that we use in class. So download Stanovich Chapter 1 down here. Buy them, get them by September 8th. And then you've got a syllabus quiz this week. A PEP assignment is essentially just a name for a specific assignment. So I'll go through like step by step on the next button and show you what these different things look like in just a second. But a PEP assignment is just another type of assignment to give you more preparation, engagement, and I forget what the last P means. Preparation, engagement, something. It's in your syllabus. It's actually listed in there what the acronym means. I just forgot. And then you can also find your lecture videos here. So this is one way to navigate through things in the course. You can go to the intro page for the week. You can see, oh, I need to read these things. You can also refer to your syllabus schedule for what you need to read. You can look at the due dates there. You can say, oh, for this week I have a syllabus quiz. I have a PEP assignment due. And then you can look to your calendar and say, oh, this is when they're due, so I'll need to work on the syllabus quiz first. That probably means read the syllabus before reading Stanovich Chapter 1, that kind of thing. So you can plan out your schedule that way. The discussion board should be linked here. Right now it's not active, but it should take you straight to the discussion board where you can make your first discussion post and then go back and forth. Lecture videos as well. We will have one over Stanovich Chapter 1 this week, so you can plan in your schedule when you will watch that. So with these lecture videos, essentially they are like the lecture we would have in class. So expect them to be somewhere between 2 and 3 hours worth of video time every week. So this first week it's just on Stanovich Chapter 1. Next week it will be on Stanovich 12 and Dunnen-Hallinan Chapter 5. And any other videos. There's some videos on, say, ethics or research methods later on that don't directly tie to the chapters but are additional lectures that we would have covered in a classroom setting. So plan out your schedule at the beginning of the class. Plan out the time you'll need to take for the class. Any 3 credit hour class is expecting to take about 3 credit hours of, say, watching video lectures time, because that would be our in-class time. But as well as that, expect to spend in between 2 and 3 hours per week on any given 3 credit course on work outside the class. So that would be things like you're reading your syllabus, you're reading Stanovich Chapter 1, you're doing your syllabus quiz. So plan anywhere between 5 and 6 hours per week to do the work for any 3 credit course. Some weeks might get more busy. If you know the midterm exam, for example, is coming up, maybe budget more time for that kind of week. If you know you have draft 1 of your literature review coming up, budget more time for that. And so the draft of the literature review and the literature review overall is one of the biggest assignments. We've actually got a lot of steps towards that. If you go through these things that are due, a lot of these assignments, actually I can show very easily on the syllabus assignment page. Most of these writing assignments get you to the point of your final literature review. So a lot of them are essentially preparations to get you to that point where you have a really good solid final literature review, and it'll hopefully be one of the best things you've written to this point in your academic career. So with that being said, we do have a midterm, a final in this class. Some of this was intro to the class, some of this was intro to the week. Let's navigate through the week, starting with the introduction. Let's pretend you've read all of this. We can go next. Read all about me and my family and a few myths about psychology, a little bit about where I'm coming from and my perspective from psychology. You can go to the discussion board, post here. continue through. You can download that syllabus, read the syllabus. Some of the formatting, okay, it looks like the formatting is acting nicely right now. But downloading it, you'll get a good PDF format, easier to read that way. And netiquette policy is basically etiquette in an online setting. It's also in the syllabus, so since I have it twice here, it's probably something that I want you to read a few times. Then you'll find the first 3 chapters of the textbook we use in class, so you can have that linked through this intro right here. You also have it here. If you hadn't downloaded it yet, there it is. And then these are reminders. Hey, read Stanovich chapter 1. So if you missed it in the syllabus, if you missed it in the introduction, I've got it here. Read that. And then here is the lecture. Generally, I would like you to read the material before viewing the lecture. So that is a good practice in most of your classes, actually, is to read the material that the lecture will be over. As you read it, you're taking it in one time, and we'll actually talk about this, about memory in psychology and how it's related to good study skills. But one really good way is to expose yourself to the material once by reading it. Then you're taking notes on what you're reading, that kind of thing. Then you watch the lecture. You take notes again. You review things again. That really helps. And then you'll study it at least one more time before you take the exam. Hopefully more than just one time, but at least one more time. And then you're getting that material 3 times, which means that your forgetting curve will be a lot flatter. You'll forget a lot less. And we'll talk about forgetting curve in a few weeks. So after you've read that lecture, you can see clicking next, you have your syllabus quiz. You do have a couple attempts on that syllabus quiz. That is open book, open note, not open neighbor, just like most of the assignments. This is your PEP assignment, so that preparation, engagement, Again, I forgot what all the P's stand for. But essentially, this will be very useful for you thinking about what you want to do in life and in your career. So one of the things that I've done with a bunch of other researchers is create tools to help people find their purpose in life, specifically people around your age. Most students in undergrad courses are somewhere between, say, 17 and 25, although I have had students all the way up to, say, 93. But with that being said, these were designed for people in between about 14 and 35. So they're really good little activities to help you think about what is your purpose in life. Do you have a purpose? How to balance that purpose with your work? Is your work going to become part of your purpose? Those kinds of things. So a really useful activity, and then we will click next, and we've got week 2. Again, I'm about to record that intro video, so it doesn't exist here. But generally for this class, I will have 2 weeks open at any given time. As we come up to the holidays, I might expand that a little bit, but generally I'll have just 2 weeks open at any given time. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to email me. If there's a lot of questions on something specific, I will probably put it into something like this for week 2 so everyone can get that answer or send out that email. So again, a couple different ways to navigate. You can use these previous and next buttons. You can click on modules and see all the modules for week 1 and week 2 to click through to those different assignments. Definitely keep track of your assignment points that you've got, and keep track of the calendar to know what's coming up, how to prepare, how much time to budget for this class. But I'm excited to have you in class, and let's get into some actual material. A lot of this was a little bit of introduction to the class in general as well as the week. Let's get into some stuff about psychology as a science and a profession.